Had to wear black to support the fallen tonight. Huckleberry's here too. Hey, it's Romania Black, and guess what? 3 people died in the last episode, Death Note. or 2 people in a Shinigami died. What the fudge? So yeah, I watched episode 24 a few days ago, and I watched episode 25 about 30 minutes ago. And I went back and watched the English dub of episode 25. I'm still floored, but for the first time on this channel, I couldn't wait. I literally could not wait. I was like, I need to at least... Now, after watching episode 26, I'm probably going to take a little break so I can hear your comments and everything, but I was like, I couldn't. I was like, no, we have 11 episodes left this series, and we've killed off Sherlock. We killed off Jesus, aka Sherlock, in the span of the last episode. We still have 11 episodes to go. I mean, Light's won. Right? Light won, right? He's the god of the new world. Nothing's in his way now, so everything's gonna go fine. So what do we do now? What do we do for the rest of the series? I give the show props for killing off the second protagonist of the series, for killing off the second main character. I give kudos to the creators for being like, no, we're gonna do this. And for doing it in a clever and amazing way. But I was, I had to calm down after after I finished that discussion of episode 25. I had to calm down. I was like, I had sweat through my shirt. I went and changed, and I was like, I'm gonna wear black and internally scream because L's been my favorite character in this show, and now he's dead. Awesome. Great. Yep. So I did go back and rewatch the English dub. English dub of episode 26 is episode 25 is pretty good. But I made some notes, some things that I'm sure you all will have commented on by now, but I'm gonna just bring them out here. The snow falling as Watari and Elle are holding their hands in front of the church or the home. The snow falling is very reminiscent of the snow falling around Naomi when she died way back in episode 4 or 5, one of those episodes. Yeah, it's very reminiscent of that. I think not by coincidence. And then it's kind of funny. It's almost foreshadowing because you have Elle and Watari walking hand in hand next to the gate with the crosses. And then both Watari and Elle die in this episode, in that last episode. So seems rather fitting, doesn't it? It's kind of a nice foreshadowing. But then it almost, if you listen, if you go back, the sound that was in the last episode, because it's called Silence, but there's lots of visual cues and sounds that are so different. But the sound as Elle is being brought back to reality, it sounded like a film reel. It was like crackling like a film reel. And all I could think about was Black Butler. In the series Black Butler, whenever someone dies, their memories come out like a film strip, and it sounds crackly like a film strip. And that's all I could think about in that moment was, yeah, it just sounds like Elle knew. And Elle knew he was going to die. I'm pretty convinced of that. Badass Light, man. God, Brad Swain is Light. He made him sound so cruel in the English dub when when Rim figures out that Light has played her and tricked her. He sounds so cruel. He's like, don't you care about Misa's happiness? He sounds so sinister. I'm like, are you joking? I gave Brad a little bit of a hard time for episode 24 because Miano showed him up, but Brad, he came back tour de force for episode 25. Sounded great, right? The rooftop, Elle on the rooftop, he looks like a lost kitten, right? And it's almost like when he's confronting Light about the lie, before he gets to that point, he says, everything I say is nonsense anyway, so don't believe anything that I say. It's almost like he's saying that when he told Light that he was his first friend, which now at this point, I do believe that Light was his first friend. I really do. But he's like, it's all nonsense anyway. You don't believe any of that, right? So it's almost like Elle was calling him out, being like, I bared my soul to you, and it was just nothing. It was just nonsense to you, right? You just thought it was silly. You didn't take it seriously. Is how that reads to me. Him just kind of confessing everything in that moment without saying it, right? And then there's the whole thing about the lie, and Elle and Light being like, well, everybody lies. It's no big deal. I'm like... And then the whole thing in the English dub, it's so obvious in that moment. And I'm like, Light, how'd you not pick up that Elle knew he was going to die? It's so obvious, right? And there's an added line in the English dub. There's an added line when they're doing the foot massage and doing all that. There's an added line that was not in the Japanese original voice cast. And it's as Elle, his back is to us, the audience. So they added this line in because they could. And so he's like giving him a foot massage stuff. And he says, it'll be lonely, won't it? It'll be lonely, won't it? Like, he's like, it's going to be lonely because we're going to part ways soon. Like, he knew. But yeah, and the whole thing is the idea that Jesus washed the feet of his apostles. So there's this really funny contrast that you have Light, who believes he's a god, and yet you have L, who is literally doing the act that Jesus did before his crucifixion. So you have a man that thinks he's God, and then, you know, a representation of the Son of God dying. And he said, and the funny thing about the contrast is he says he's atoning for his sins. And it's like, but but he's the one that's dying for Light. Light's the one that's sinning, thinking he's a god. So it's just, it's insanity. So I'm like, how are they gonna, where do we go to from here? Because there's lots of things that aren't answered, right? There's lots of things that are still not answered. We don't know how they're going to do like the funeral, who inherits everything from Watari and L. Is that how they're going to find out his name? By learning about his inheritance? Is that secretly set up to go to somebody else in the event of their deaths and we'll just never know? How is Misa going to find out about Rim's death? What is Ryuk going to think about all of this? What is Ryuk going to think about L being gone? Is he going to be like, Light, your buddy, you killed him? Really? Like, how's that going to work? So are we going to find out L's name? I don't want to know. No spoilers. So if we're going to figure it out later, don't tell me. We'll figure it out when we come. I don't want somebody to be like, oh, you'll find out in episode 36. I'm like, don't tell me that. No, keep that to yourself. Let me figure it out on my own. But that's just what I'm thinking. I'm wondering if we'll find any of that information out, right? And so it's so interesting. And my handwriting was awful at this point. But it's almost... It's L Light at this point. I wrote down this horrible, like, this is like an Old Spice commercial, right? It's like Light, he does like L, but he can't like L because L's in the way of him becoming a god. So he has to kill L, right? But in order to kill L, he has to become friends with L and kind of pretend like he cares about L so that he can get closer to L. So he can find out how L's trying to convict him so that he can, reverse it on him so he can kill L. But in order, he has to befriend L so they can kill L. And then he has to pretend that he did like L, so he get closer to L, so nobody will suspect that he's wanting to kill L. But then when he finally kills L, he has to pretend to be his friend, so people won't suspect that he was trying to kill L all along. It all makes sense. L, that line, my favorite parts of the last episode, my favorite parts, hands down, watching the English dub, is one, seeing L do the, like, I need you to come here so I can talk to you. Like, the way he, that may end up being the thumbnail. I haven't even made the thumbnail. As I'm recording this, I literally just watched episode 25, so I haven't made the thumbnail yet, but that one might be close. There's a lot of good images in episode 25. It's going to be hard to choose. I'll probably have to ask Patreon what they think. But it's that, and the moment that there was silence when Elle says, have you ever told the truth at all since you've been born? And it's just, and then the rain slowly comes back in. That part is so good. Episodes 24 and 25 may be two of my favorites of the whole series. They may be two of my favorites. My only other favorite episode, I think my favorite episode so far is the very first time Elle goes, I'm Elle, and like tells him that. I want to go rewatch that so badly, but not yet. So I'm going to watch episode 26, and then I'm going to take a nice long break from Death Note until it's time. Until I get some more comments, until it's time closer that I need to record episode 27, but... what the fudge show. Kudos to you for killing off 3 of the mains in one episode, GOT style, but a toast to Watari, best butler. He erased all the files and did his job, and the fact that he was looking at the screen at Ryuzaki like this was all for him, I want to know their backstory, and I feel like maybe we're going to get one episode where we get a little bit more of it, but we're not there yet. So we got that. So a toast to Watari. A toast to Rem, giving up her life to save Misa. I hope that Light gets what's coming to him. Because that was a bold, cruel move. And then to Elle, I'm still reeling. It's not hit. It's not sunk in that he's not there anymore. It's probably going to sink in this episode, but I'm not there yet. I'm just so sad that he's gone. Like, my favorite character. I'm like, now I want to see what's going to happen to Light. How's this going to affect Light? What's going to happen? But to Elle, I'm going to drink the rest of this coffee to you this episode, but damn, what can we do? So let's just see the aftermath of episode 25. Episodes 24 and 25 were a pretty big tour de force. Let's just see what happens. Probably not anything crazy, right? It's just Death Note, right? We're going to start episode 26 of Death Note, and we're going to do that here in 3, 2, 1, and let's find out. So the plot thickens. Damn! So I wanted to bring Whiteboard Coon out. This is probably not going to be a crazy long discussion because half this damn episode was a recap. That is the only disappointing thing about this episode is that half of it's a recap. It almost feels like an in memoriam to Elle, though. So on the one hand, it's frustrating because I usually hate recaps. I'm usually like, why are we doing this? I just watched this. Why do I need to see it again? But I feel like for Elle's sake, we needed an in memoriam, right? We needed something to memorialize him by. This is it. And I want to go back through and kind of just highlight over here. I'll probably highlight over here so we can talk about the meat of the episode there. But I'm going to highlight over here just kind of the things that might have stood out about Elle, right? I can't believe he's actually dead. That's really sad. Like, Elle, my dude. Like, what? I got very much Sherlock, like the final problems vibes, but if it was reversed, instead of Sherlock living and Moriarty supposedly dying, it was reversed. But so then what do we do? This episode's called Renewal. Like Renewal. I get like Miss Peregrine's Home for Orphan Children with Watari. Like, what was Watari doing? We got his name. We didn't get anything on Elle, but they were orphans. So it would have been very easy for those orphans to like not have names. Maybe Elle didn't really even have a name. Maybe he was just called, maybe they're all letters. They could all be letters in the alphabet. Like there was L and now are we on M and M? M&M, are those two kids? M&M, is that what's gonna be? Dial M for murder? I don't know how I feel about this. I don't know how to feel about this, but let's talk about it, shall we? So what we have here is, we'll skip the intro. We have they don't even touch base on Rim in this episode. R.I.P. Rim. Like, we don't get anything on her. And Ryuk doesn't ask about Rim, which is curious. Neither does Misa. She's too distracted by the fact that Light has asked her to live with her. How is that working out? Like, have they done anything, or is he just avoiding her? I want to see what their life is like at the apartment. I can't imagine it's great. Because Light, like, has no affection towards her. But, so, anyway, let's go back to this. So, we start out with Elle and the live broadcast about Elle. Telling them, like, spreading out that he's only being brought. We basically just cut through everything that's important. And we cut through the perpetrators, random murders in Shinjuku. And his crime was only broadcast in Japan. And we see all the little kids and everything, right? So we basically do like an in memoriam to Elle, and we go through and basically talk about how Elle had figured it out. He had figured Light out. The problem, I feel, is that I feel like at the end of the day, the problem was that Elle actually did get kind of close to Light. I feel like the problem was that he did kind of have a little bit of emotionality there, because when he said like, I had hoped you were Kira, I feel like Elle, maybe he did get his emotions into play, right? His emotions into play did happen. I feel like that did happen, right? Which is interesting. Okay. So then from there, we go through everything and like all the ways that, and talking about the 141 people that it had to be. And so basically he figured out Light as Kira. He just needed proof, right? He just needed proof of it happening. But he narrowed it down. December 12th, narrowed down the 12 FBI agents, narrowed down December 19th. He basically narrowed down Naomi. It was so crazy seeing Naomi again, but it was also crazy seeing Daddy Yagami with black hair before he went white from all of this, right? Before everything went into shambles. And so Elle, like, he just basically outlines how he figured everything out. And then the contact with Light Yagami. God, I'm Elle. And talking about those moments that they had together. Playing tennis. This whole first half made me realize that I just want to go back to them playing tennis. I want to go back to them having a tennis match. I want to go back to them, like, being able to like have this one-on-one time together. But we're not going to get that anymore because Light killed him, right? And it just goes on to talk about how they formed this friendship, this unlikely friendship. And then suspect everything, come down to Higuchi, got narrowed down to Yotsuba. Misa helped them all and narrowed it down to Higuchi. Like, basically, the first however many minutes, it's like 13 minutes of this. And then the idea that it doesn't add up. That the last rule that was a lie doesn't add up. So, and then L's just like, oh, and he figures out the lie there. Light, Yagami, and Misa are alive. I want to get to the point where it starts, so the actual episode starts. This is only, yeah, he says that's the only lie. That's the only one that doesn't add up. He doesn't know it's a lie, but he's like, that's the only one that doesn't add up. And then we see the fracture between Light and his eyes, right? This episode was so good, but it was so frustrating. And then we see, he says, the following is the record which contains everything that I have investigated on the Kira incident. The fact that you're reading this message means that I am no longer alive at this moment. And his eyes, we go back to those clear eyes just in that moment. I hate it. I hate it here. I hereby leave this record as my firm achievement. So L left a record. So he left the record of the Kira incident as a record. The following record contains facts I investigate on the Kira incident. And it says, as my firm achievement. Now the question is here, and we cut on the as my, and that's what we go with. Like, as my. And then it shows it just being erased, right? And then there. It's like he deleted it. So the question is, in that moment, and we cut to Light there. The question is, did L actually leave a record of everything, or did Light write that and then delete it? Was Light going to write something? So that's it. That's interesting. Did L actually leave an account of his record? Because on the one hand, that doesn't seem like L. That doesn't seem like L, right? It doesn't seem like something he would do. Like, why would he leave a record of the investigation when he had no intention of dying? Unless, you know, that was his final thing and he was going to leave it. But then Watari deleted all the evidence. So was Light actually writing that? Was Light writing a memoriam to L, like his memoir? Was he doing like OJB, like, this is how I did it? That's so curious because I don't know at this point. I figure in the comments people are going to be like, oh, that's what L left that and Light deleted it. Or Light was writing something for L and then deleted it. Either way, the fact that Light has killed L has clearly affected him. It has affected him. The fact that L is no longer there. Or it seems Light's playing it off like it hasn't affected him. He's like, nope, everything's fine. Everything's kosher. Everything's all going according to plan. But you can tell, like, the light, so to speak, has left his eyes. He no longer just looks, he just looked dead inside. When he asked Misa to stay at the apartment with him, he looked dead inside. He looked like Sweeney Todd whenever Helena Bonham Carter's like, let's live together, get married. He was like, as you wish. Like, it's just like the life is like left him. He's just doing it out of convenience at this point. Oh my God, Light is literally Sweeney Todd. And Misa is Helena Bonham Carter or Angela Lansbury's character, Mrs. Lovett. And he says Mrs. Lovett, who will go willingly along with killing people because she loves Sweeney Todd. Misa will willingly go along with killing people because she loves Light, but Light has no love for her at all. And in Sweeney Todd, his actual wife, who is kind of dead, and spoilers to Sweeney Todd is because of him, he just loses all life and meaning after that. And then he has no love for Mrs. Lovett. He just uses her for his own ends. That's kind of how this is. That's kind of how Light is. He's just using Misa. So whenever he's like, let's live together, there's no sparkle in his eye whatsoever. It's like his actual frenemy is gone. So we'll talk about that when we get to it. But yeah, it just shows him looking at the screen, blank and dead inside. It's like, well, I'd feel some sympathy for Light, except this is all his fault. So I don't feel sympathy for Light. I'm like, you caused this. So good. I'm glad you feel sad that you killed him. Glad you do, Light. So let's talk about Light. Let's talk about Light. So I'm very salty with him, but I loved Elle and now he's dead. So I feel like I have a right to be salty. So he was he writing or deleting a testament to Elle? That is the question, right? Was he writing or deleting a testament? How does that work, right? So we go past the little... I'm sad that we don't have any more rules to the Death Note. It's almost like the show's saying, what's the point? Light's the god of this world. There's not a case to solve. That's why I'm so glad the little orphan children came in at the end. So it's been 10 days since Ryuzaki's secret funeral. Okay, so we're going to put up here that... we're going to put up here back in purple. It's been 10 days. 10 days since the funeral. It's been about a little over a week and 3 days since the funeral in secret, and it looks like we aren't going to die. But now we know Watari's identity in the end, but we didn't find out anything about Ryuzaki. So Ryuzaki's identity is still secret. We don't know his name. We just know that Watari, I'll put up here, that Watari was an amazing inventor. You know, inventor, sniper, butler, father figure, dead. You know, it's just, ugh. And we find out his actual name. He created orphanages worldwide. So here's the thing. He had orphanages. Orphanages worldwide. I feel like... So that orphanage at the beginning was one of the places he was leading Ryuzaki to it. He was leading Elle to it. Like he found Elle and brought him there. Curious. Like he took him in, right? With the fortune built on numerous patents. Okay. So he built orphanages with his fortune from patents. So he had all of these inventions. Okay, so Watari was clearly father of orphanage, the globe, inventor, Quilsh Wammy, Mr. Quilsh. What a weird name! And they said he's a hero. A hero. Huh. So it's Mr. Quilsh Wammy. Wammy without an H. Wammy. Quilsh is such a cool name. Quilsh Wammy. He was Watari. And it says the spectacle. What does it say? The Spectacle Society by Madness. And it says Chairman Miss Watanabe for coming to visit. It was still thought, though, low-spirited. It was a shock. The depth of sadness. I'm guessing this is all just not anything important, but I'm just looking to see if anything stands out. I'm not seeing anything. It just looks like random words. Okay, interesting. But yeah, so Quilsh, he's a hero. A hero. But we can't continue investigating here now that Elle and Watari are gone. So yeah, where are they going to go? They're like, this is tough. Yeah, because they quit the police force, so they can't go back there, and they can't stay in this apartment. Eventually something's going to happen to it. I'm assuming Watari being an inventor, and he clearly has ties to the orphanage. So there was another man at the orphanage, right? There was another man at the orphanage that like he was waiting to hear from Watari. So I guess they're going to get it back. But then Light, he says, And they're like, Light, how's it going? He says, I can remove the entire system here by tonight. So Light is going to take Watari's system with him. Even though he deleted everything, Light is going to take Watari's and Elle's tech with him. There's something oddly, like, somberly romantic about that in the weirdest ways. Like why does he need the tech? The files have all been deleted. Why is he taking... It's almost like he's taking it... He already has his own computer, so why doesn't he just take the system? Why doesn't he take the computer too? It's almost like he might feel a little twinge of guilt for killing Elle, and so he wants to take something that was Elle's with him as a memento, perhaps. He's like, I don't feel good about it. It feels like stealing. Yeah, well, you're stealing from a dead person, so yeah, kind of. A bit. And he says, I've created a voice like the one that Ryuzaki used to use. And the sad thing is that Light can use the L monogram and it means the same thing because his name starts with L too. So he's copied the voiceover that L had, right? He's copied the voiceover. Okay. We can act like he's still alive and control the police as we've been doing. But who will replace L? Where will we do it? Like, I'm just like, ugh. So they want to still be able to control the police. So as far as the police know, they think that L is still alive. So the police do not know L is dead. As far as we know, they don't. And so Light's saying, like, who will become L and where? Like, just setting it up, right? Just setting it up and letting him just, like, give you the keys, right? What do we do with the killer notebook? And Matsuda's like, the only one to take on the role of L is you. And I'm sorry, but it leaves such a sour taste in my mouth. Such a sour taste in my mouth. Like, back before, Elle was wanting Light to become him, to out him as Kira, right? To prove that he was Kira. He wanted Elle to take that position so it would prove he's Kira. Well, now he has, and he's Kira. So it's like, Elle was exactly right. It's very self-fulfilling, right? He's like, the only one that can take it is you. And Light doesn't say anything. He's very quiet, right? He says, if Ryuzaki was killed by Kira for challenging him, then I don't feel comfortable about it. Which is exactly what happened, right? So Light, he talked in the last episode about how he doesn't lie, right? Or he lies a little bit, but it's never to hurt people, right? So he says he's not comfy with that decision if Elle was killed by Kira as a threat. So it's like there's a lot of layers to that, because on the one hand, Light's saying, well, gee, I don't feel comfortable taking L's spot if he was killed by Kira doing this. That puts me in a dangerous position. But on the other hand, he's also kind of saying, like, yeah, I kind of killed L. Should I really be taking this spot? But again, it's so hard to tell with Light in a lot of situations because, like Elle kind of deduced in the last episode, Light has so many personas, so many layers of the mask. It's like, what is Light's real thoughts and what is not? And that becomes kind of hard at times, especially when you can't see his face. When you can see his face, it's a little bit more obvious. But when you can't, it isn't. He's like, I'll be tricking the people of the world. And I like that Matsuda, like, he nudges Aizawa, like, go on, tell him that he should do it. You can convince him when I can't. And so Light says, like, the comment that I'm tricking the world. Which, as Kira, it's not really tricking because the people know that Kira is a person, right? It's just, Light has evolved. It's like the people of the world know that Kira is a human, but it's evolved beyond that to the point where they're worshiping him like he's something else, right? And Aizawa says, I understand your feelings, but you're the only one who can do this. It's like they all think that Light cared for Elle so much. He doesn't want to, he's like, oh, I really cared for Elle. It wouldn't be right for me to take his place. The odd thing is, that is, in my opinion, entirely true, but Light has totally, again, like I said at the beginning of this episode, Light is putting on a wall. He's like, I cared for Elle, but no, I didn't care for Elle because I killed Elle, but I kind of cared for Elle, but now should I become Elle? But I need to become Elle to become Kira. So it's like, there's all these layers to it, and Aizawa and them all think that Light appreciated and cared about Elle, and he was his friend, so he doesn't want to do this because that seems like it'd be dishonest to your friend. But the reality is, it's what Light needs, right, to become Kira fully in power. And he's like, Ryuzaki even said so. You'd be capable of succeeding Elle, which is what he did say. You'd be capable of succeeding Elle. Not that you should, not that you will, but you'd be able to, because he's on the same level. And Light, we don't see his face. Again, we don't see his face at all. And he's like, it's so easy. It's no fun without Ryuzaki. Yeah. It's no fun. It's no fun without Ryuzaki. It's too easy. All too easy. Yeah, I'm like, what happened to the notebook in the 13 days and the executioner? We're not going to try that anymore? Just throw that out there. What about, we're not going to try any of that? We're not even going to like consider that anymore? That's not a thing? There's like so many odds and ends I think Elle was trying to point out that now that Elle's gone, since no one's there to point it out and Light's not going to do that because that would make him suspicious, it just falls off the face of the earth. And I'm like, oh, it's so frustrating. But yeah. And so he's like, all right, I'll do it. And everybody's like, oh, good. Like, Daddy Yagami's like, good on you. Mogi's like, good deal. Matsuda's like, oh, thank goodness. And I'm sitting here like, bleh. I'm like, you're not Elle. He's like, but I won't do anything dangerous like challenging Kira directly to gain clues like Ryuzaki did. So yeah, so Light says that he'll be Elle, just not as bold or dangerous. Which is such a perfect alibi. He's like, I'm not going to actively try to find Kira because, you know, that would be dangerous. I'm not going to be bold like him. Is that okay? And then, of course, Daddy Yagami is going to say, yes, that would be better and safer. It's perfect because Chief Yagami's like, I'm not going to put my son in harm's way like Elle did. Elle didn't have, like, which makes sense now, Elle was an orphan. He didn't have, like, parents that were worried about him. So, yeah, of course, Chief Yagami's going to be fine with that because he doesn't want his son to get hurt. So that plays right into Light's hands. He's like, Ryuzaki might have been too confrontational. Yeah, and so they say that Elle was too confrontational. I'm like, quit speaking ill of the dead. He just died 10 days ago, and you already are calling him out and roasting him? I mean, they're not really, but I'm just like, no, Elle was confrontational because that was what it took to find Light. And I can do the same work with this computer and my own. It's also possibly Elle from my room at home. He's like, why do I want to? He's like, Dad, can I like work remote? He's like, why do I have to go to work? Can I just work from home? I can make my own business hours. I can like make my own money. Can I just work remote from home? So he's got Elle's computer and his, and he's going to work from home as Elle and as Kira. He's like, and I'll also be Watari. But it would be difficult to do this with my mom and little sister around. So yeah, so he also thinks that he's going to be Watari as well. I'm like, don't you dare speak anything of Watari. You're not half the butler he was. And he doesn't want his mom or sister around, obviously, because they're going to ask questions. They would ask questions and then he can't be Kira. I'm like, nobody suspects at all. Which it makes sense that nobody suspects because Light's thought this out. He's like, well, if I'm going to be Elle, I'm going to be doing complicated police work. I don't want my mom or my sister around to ask questions. So can I get a one-room apartment? Interesting, a one-room apartment. I'm like, so him and Misa have been staying together? So, like, have they slept together? Is that implied? Is that a thing? What? So he wants a one-room apartment. And then he's like, well, there's nothing suspicious about renting a room for my son to live on his own. Which there's not. There's really not. His son's in his 20s. He's in college. Why wouldn't it be? So he gets the... So I'm going to put it over here. The one-room apartment. Which, a studio apartment, I'm like, Light, Misa's got a lot of stuff. You going to have room for all her clothes and everything? Is that a thing? Did you think this out? That girl's got a lot of stuff. Says then the place he'll be renting out will be the task force headquarters. And they're like, yes. And all that's left is what to do with the killer notebook. And so then Light says, well, it'll just have to be one of the 5 of us who we trust will never use the notebook. I'm glad they didn't give it to Light. That would have been too much. Hide it somewhere where no one can get to it. I love that Matsuda raises his hand like, I'll take it. And then they're like, Daddy Yagami. And he's like, yes, great idea. I freaking love Matsuda because he was just like, I'll volunteer as tribute. And it's like, no, do not give this to Matsuda. So Daddy Yagami takes the notebook. Which this notebook, though, The notebook they have is the one that Light had that could see Rim, and Rim's no longer here. So that makes sense, right? He takes it, yeah. And they're like, Chief, please do this. And Matsuda's like, oh yeah, we can count on you. You're a pillar of justice. And he calls him a pillar of justice. Again, I have not forgotten back when Light said, if anything ever happens to him, I'll kill Kira. I think that this is a setup. I think this is setting up that the fact that his dad has the notebook now. But I'm like, but his dad having the notebook, which the thing of it is, Chief Yagami knows that what the notebook is capable of. So he's not just going to put it somewhere where his wife and daughter could get a hold of it, because that would be very bad. So at least we know that he's going to hide it to where they can't find it. But that's still very dangerous that you're, one, letting your father take it home or take it with him, putting him in danger, right? Putting him in danger and his wife and kid in danger. And I know that on the surface that would be like, well, how are they in danger if he has a notebook? But I'm like, I don't know. Something about that just seems like a bad setup. It seems like it's foreshadowing something bad's going to happen to him. And I don't know why, but it's like of all of them to get it. I think any of them except Light that would have gotten the notebook, it would have been a bad deal, right? And the thing of it is, Light doesn't need that notebook because Misa has one. He'll just use Misa's notebook. It's buried somewhere. She only has a couple pages. He could go grab it, right? Or just have Misa keep going and getting pages. He doesn't need the other notebook. So it's the perfect setup. It does not bode well. Things don't bode well. And he says, me, huh? He's like, all right. Like, he just has that same, like, go-to attitude as Light, obviously. And Light gets that from his dad, but I don't see it going well. Something bad's going to happen. I just get that forewarning, that ominous feeling in my gut. I'm like, I don't like it. And then Matsuda's like, let's avenge Ryuzaki. Ryuzaki's rolling in his grave at this. Ryuzaki is rolling in his grave going, you're all idiots? Light is playing every single one of you? Are you shitting me? Just see it, right? And they're like, yeah, Kira's still here. Let's catch him. So yeah, they have at least not forgotten. They at least have not forgotten that Kira's still around killing people, right? Which is going to be made even more obvious when Light becomes him again. So Kira's still around. But the police do a shit job of catching him. So the police say they'll catch him. They'll catch him. But nothing happens. But nothing's happening. Nope. They're like, let's catch him. And they're like, sure. And then they say we'll have a party to celebrate Light becoming the second L. Second coming of L, right? So yeah, he's now the second L. I kind of hate it. I hated the concept of it back then. I was like, oh, Light becoming L? No. And now it just leaves me with like the sourest feeling in my stomach. I'm like, Light is not L. They were similar, but no. And he's like, quit fooling around, now's the time. And again, we don't see Light's face through any of this scene, really. This whole scene, we never see Light's face. We never see his eyes open or anything. The only time we see him, his eyes are closed, saying that it's all too easy. But we don't see his reaction to all this. And he looks over, and he's dead inside. He looks over to see Elle, and Elle's looking at him. But we can't see Elle's eyes anymore. The eyes are blocked out by the hair. And he says something to Light, and then we cut to the restaurant. So you will never convince me that Light feels guilty. That he feels guilty for killing Elle. That he is not happy that he's killed him. You cannot convince me otherwise, because that moment of looking over and seeing him. And then he drinks the thing, and he just looks dead inside. Yeah, when he's meeting with Misa, he just looks like somebody that has been in mourning for weeks. And he's in the red shirt, which the red shirt is Light's best shirt, for the record. I do like Light the best in the red shirt. But he just looks dead inside. And Misa's like, it's our first date in a while. You should enjoy yourself more. I do like Misa in the, like, leather jacket, too. I feel like Misa's style is inspired by Ryuk. Like, she's been around Ryuk a long time, that she's just like, Ryuk, your heavy metal style has influenced me. I feel like that's the case. She just feels like this is totally great, right? She's like, you should enjoy yourself. And she's like, man, And then I feel like this is the saddest thing, but Light telling her to live with him, it feels like he's like giving himself a death sentence. Like he's acting like he's about to say the worst thing in the world. He acts like he's about to say the worst thing in the world to her. And he's like, Misa. And there's the fan above them. And he's like, let's live together. He looks so dead inside, right? He looks dead inside. What the fudge? And she's like, what? And she's like, really? And he's like, yeah, I've already rented an apartment. And she's like, oh my gosh. And she gets all excited. She's like, we're living together. I've won. So he says he's got an apartment, and he asks Misa to live with him. I want to know how this living arrangement works. Like, how does this even work? I want to see this in action. We don't see that this episode. How in the world, how are they using the apartment that he's renting out as a base, and also her living there and it be one room? I don't understand. But she's like, Misa wins! And Light looks like he just lost the biggest bet in all of his life savings. Yeah, he just told her that so that she'd stay with him and he could keep using her as... I feel like he told her that one so she wouldn't, question Rim so much and be so upset about that. But I feel like the other thing is he's just using her because she's the second Kira and he wants to keep tabs on her. But what's the point now? Who's going to stop him, right? Elle's gone, so what's the big deal? And they're like, wins? And she's like, against Kiyomi and Mari and Yuri. She's like, all those other girls you were supposedly dating, I beat them out to live with you. And she's like, it's all right, Light. It's like, you only used them to trick Elle, didn't you? No. Yeah, yes, but he's using you to trick Elle. He's using you too, not to trick Elle, but it's funny. She's like, oh, you only used those girls to trick Elle, didn't you? Which is the truth. But he's using Misa too, and she just doesn't realize it. She's like, I understand. And that line, I understand, that it's the same line that Elle said to him when he figured things out, right? The irony here, so Misa said to him, I understand. You were only using those women to trick Elle. And the crazy thing is, Light is using Misa, and this whole relationship of him, like, saying that he loves her and stuff was in order to trick Elle, in order for her to, like, kill him. So yeah, he's using her the same way he used those other girls. That's the irony of it. And she thinks she's got it figured out, just like Elle thought he had it figured out. It's crazy. And I'm wondering in this moment, Elle, like Light looking at her, if he's figured it out too. If he's seeing the irony of it, the parallels. Oh my God. He says, you won't see them anymore, will you? Yeah. And Ryuk's like, oh, how weird. Ryuk's just like, this turn of events. Yeah. And so Light says he'll stop seeing him. I want to see Light and Misa in an apartment together and how that works. Like, do they sleep in the same bed? Is that a thing? Have they had sex? What's going on? I'm hoping we find out. And Ryuk looks around like, But we go back to the tower, the top of the tower. And he's like, hey, so is your score finally settled with Elle? And he's like, yeah. So yeah, Light's just dead inside. He's just like, yep, it's settled. It's done. And Ryuk's like, oh, well, I shouldn't expect anything interesting to happen anymore, huh? And Light doesn't answer. He says, that's not true, Ryuk. He's like, He's like, from now on, I'll show you the creation of a new world. And Ryuk's like, oh, really? And then when he's gripping his hand, right? So when he's gripping his hand, I don't know if you've seen Neon Genesis Evangelion. I won't spoil things for you, but the main character, Shinji, does that quite a lot. He grips his hand. And the idea behind it in the hand gripping is that it's a show of like will. It's proof of your existence. It shows that you have willpower, free will. You're doing this. You're moving forward. You're acting, right? And so it's almost like Light becomes and stays Kira because that's all he has now. He has his goal, his purpose, and there's nothing stopping him. So he's like, he's come this far. He killed Elle to be Kira. So now he's got to go through with it, right? And that whole idea of him scrunching his hand is like, no, I chose this. This was my choice. I have to follow through with it, right? And I love the idea of the conductor, that he's like the conductor and the death notes on like a music sheet board, right? And him just like scrunching his hand. It's the same way. And him just like holding up the pen like the conductor. Mm-hmm. And then it just, the lightning flashes. And it's almost like, it's so crazy. The lightning flashes and his eyes go from being dead to being fiery. Like, no, I've got to do this. This is, I killed Elle. It's over. Now I have the ability to become Kira and uninhibited. So that's what I'm going to do. And that's exactly what happens. He just starts writing names all over in the book again. Over and over again. Notably, all the criminals that he kills, they're all very non-attractive. You know, just want to point that out. But, and then, yeah. And then just like the light shining and everything over him. Like, really? You diva? So dramatic. Like the light shining. And then we have all the news stories coming in of all the people being killed by Kira. And them all disappearing. And him just like going off. And so then, but then here's the thing that's crazy. We see Light and his relationships. So Light, he killed Elle, who he had a relationship with. And then we see Weddy. We find out her name. We see her working with him. And then we see the paper rip across there. Mary Kenwood. And we see that was her name. That he figures it out. Which I'm sure he could do enough research to find out who she is. Mary Kenwood. And she has the heart attack. And there's the black cat and she like speeds off. And the black cat with the red glowing eyes. The bad luck. And then we see Iber, who had a relationship with him. We see that. And here's the sad thing, right? The sad thing was that Weddy, she had like, she basically hadn't done anything after that. She just went on her way, right? I mean, she was a thief. And then he was a con man. But here's the scary thing. Is that he writes down Terry. What did he write down for his name there? He had a different name, right? Instead of Iber. He wrote down Terry Morello. I think it was Terry Morello, maybe. But here's the thing. When we saw him at the apartment with the wine, we assume as the audience that he's a con man. He was by himself, right? No. We see him, he died there, and we see like the door opens up. All we saw previously was the apartment with him in it. And we thought he was just this like bachelor con man, right? No, he had a wife and a kid. He had a wife and a kid. Because the boy goes, Papa. And then sees his dad there, dead at the table. So Light killed this man, like, Iber, and they established earlier that Iber, like, he didn't like using weapons and stuff. He didn't like killing people because he had a family. And Light just killed him. Yeah, like, Papa. And then we see the guys. We see Mito. He took over the Yotsuba company, like it looks like. Now, I wanted to make note. We had Mito there. And, like, the one guy goes to reach. He's like, Yotsuba's reconstruction is just beginning. Let's do our best. So then you had Weddy, who like did nothing that we know of at the point. He had a family, Iber did, and then we have the Yotsuba, who had just been reconstructed. It's like they drained the swamp, and then they all died. Supposedly, I want to go back and look at this. Supposedly, because here's the thing: we saw Mito. We saw Mito in the OP, right? Why would there be so much focus on Mito in the OP, right? So we got him, we got 1 man, 2 man, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have 6 man because Higuchi was 7, and then the one guy that died was 8. So there were 6 men there, right? And so the one guy stands up. I want to see how many of those men were dead on the floor, if there were 6, or if Mito got away. And of course, Huckleberry's gonna like bark at this point. And Namikawa didn't just die of a heart attack. He like bled from the mouth. What the fudge, Light? Why didn't you just kill him? Yeah, he doesn't just die of a heart attack. So, okay. We had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. No, Mito died too. That was a fake out then. Interesting. So Mito was a fake out. Huh. So all of Yotsuba are dead. All 6 of them. Even Mito. Interesting. So I guess he was just a fake out. And he says, in April of 2012, Light Yagami, age 23, joins the National Police Agency, the NPA. So, look up here. So I'm going to put on here, April of 2012. Light is 23, and he joins the NPA. And it shows him slowly, as he's done the OP, as he's done in the last few episodes, slowly walking forward, right? I feel like, not really an Attack on Titan spoiler, but I feel like Isayama could have drawn a little inspiration from that with, well, I guess, yeah, Attack on Titan spoiler. I feel like there's a little bit of things with Eren Yeager, that Eren, despite all the bad things that happens and all the things he knows he's got to do, he's doing it for a sense of justice, kind of like Light Yagami. And so the constant shot of Light continuously moving forward feels like an Eren Yeager moment of continuously moving forward. Like, no matter what happens, no matter who dies, no matter who I have to kill, I have to keep moving forward. I've already started myself on this path. I can't stop. Even though, yes, you could. So there is that. That's the thing. End of Attack on Titan spoilers. That's the thing that probably frustrates me the most about Light, is that Light has this conviction that he's creating this new world. He's creating this new world of only kind people and stopping crime. He's going to be this new god of this new world. So, yes, Light has a purpose. He fully believes he's doing this. Light believes, why would Light want to change, right? Because this, for Light, this is the end all be all. Why would he want to be any different? But we, the audience, kind of know that he doesn't have to do this if he didn't want to. There is no rule saying, as far as we know, that he has to keep killing people every 13 days, right? He could stop, but because of his convictions and everything, he's not going to. So that's so frustrating, right? So frustrating. But he joined in April 2012, and in the summer of 2012, Kira's judgments gained momentum. And then in the summer of 2012, Kira's judgments gain momentum. Okay. His judgments gain momentum in the summer of 2012. So I want to look something up really quick, right? Okay. So I went back and looked at the timeline in the episodes that I've already watched. And 2006 is where this starts. So 2006 is when Light finds the Death Note, right? That Light finds the Death Note in 2006, right? So that would have been, at the time, that would have been 6 years ago. So he would have been 16 or 17? Yeah, he would have been 17, right? He's a 17-year-old, typical 17-year-old. So we just did a time jump. We just did a time skip. We did a 6-year time skip in this series. What? So yeah, so we're seeing Light 6 years later. Him and Misa have been in an apartment together for 6 years? What? So in the summer of 2012, Kira's judgments gained momentum. So he finished college and on the police force. So, oh my God. So wait, what? I need to know what's happened in the last 6 years. The world screams in fear of Kira, but privately cheers for him. So again, what Light said was going to happen, that people on the outside fear Kira, but they also praise him, right? That's like he said it was going to happen, right? Oh my God. And slowly their true thoughts come out, and some countries even express their acceptance of Kira. Like the world continues towards a dark era where Kira is the law. So in this dark era, 6 years later, Light is in the MPA. He's second L. He's in the MPA. He's also Kira, and they established that it is a dark age of Kira. I think it's important that the show itself says a dark era where Kira is the law, right? I think that's that's rather interesting because it's like the own show is acknowledging that this is not good. That this is a potentially bad thing, that Kira is the law. So Kira is law and order. So then the police didn't do shit. They didn't catch Kira. 6 years went by and nothing happened. And they eventually just let Kira go into existence and become law. The fudge? Excuse me? A 6-year time skip. And they just casually gloss over it like it's nothing. Oh my God. But then there's the computer that was Elle's. So this is the interesting thing, right? This is the interesting thing. What we don't know. So this computer screen that was Elle's in the room, that was Elle's with the monitor and everything. Light didn't take that. That's not what he took. He took the one that was there in the office. So this screen that was Elle set this up to send something, right? So the question is, did this transmission send in 2012 or did it send back in 2006? That's the crazy thing. We don't know if the transmission sent back then or if it sent in the present time, right? So then it said there that in 2 seconds, and it said transmission. And there's the Wammy House, right? The Wammy's house. That was back there. So the Wammy's house was Watari's home, or the name of his orphanage, right? There was a transmission. What the fudge? Like, what is this secret espionage stuff? What is this Batman thing? And there's a portrait of Watari. And there's a man there that looks really sad. And he has a text that says, Elle is dead. So there's a transmission. So if something happened, so Elle said it to where if something happened to him, it would send a transmission back to the house, right? So I'm assuming that's what he asked Watari to do, would be to set up. Elle knew he was going to die. And so he had Watari set up the transmission to send after his death. Now the question is, did this send right away or what, right? Elle is dead. Saddest day watching this show so far. And then we have this guy who looks like an old butler too. And they're like, Roger! His name is Roger! So we have Roger, old Roger. He's working at Watari's home, the orphanage there. I like Roger, such a strong old butler name. Also, it's kind of like Roger that. And then we have 2 kids. We have 2 kids, one in white and one in black. Now, we see the 2 of them standing side by side. One in white, one in black. Okay, so we have a redhead. We have a redhead in black. And we have a boy that has bleach blonde hair in white. These 2, I'm presuming, orphans, right? And he says that Elle is dead. And the boy in white had a puzzle that had 3 pieces missing. And at the end of the puzzle, it was a white screen that just had the letter L. I'm sorry, what? What? So they had the puzzle and it was missing 3 pieces and it was a whiteboard with L in the corner. Excuse me? Excuse me? What? So the 3 pieces that were missing to complete L, I'm like, were they supposed to be referring to like the 3 pieces he needed to solve the case? He needed to know about the fake rule. He needed to know about the paper and if you could write on it, even if you tore it out. And what would the 3rd thing have been? So I'm like, were there 3 things he needed to solve the case? He needed to know, I'm like, what was he missing? Like, he needed to know about the piece of paper. He needed to know about the fake rule. And there was something else. And I feel like he would have solved the case. So is that all he was missing to be completed? What the fudge? That's kind of creepy. And this is to be continued. Oh my God. I'm like, so the question in all of this is, and then we see Light and Edie going down the tunnel and everything, and he's shirtless, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, so are we seeing, but we see him in the suit walking through. So is this supposed to be older Light? Is this supposed to be Light now that he's older? Is this supposed to be him as an adult? Looking dead inside? Like, gee, you killed your best friend / could be lover? Is that how we're doing this? Yep. So, I just, okay. My question is, here's the thing. I'm wondering if those two at the very end with the red hair and the bleach blonde hair, are they the ones that are in the OP and it's 6 years later? Is that what we're doing? So I want to go back to that OP real quick. There were 2 roses. There were 2 blue roses. There's 2 kids. I'm like, okay, so he walked past, but he walked past Mito. Well, Mito's dead, so why does he matter? Unless we're going to refer to him later. Unless that's actually Light when he's older, but I don't think it is. And then we walk past this woman. Is that supposed to be Misa? Older? Does Misa chop her hair off when she gets older? And has like suit with roses on? Because we're doing a time skip. Is that supposed to be Light older? Is she Did Misa cut off her hair? No! What? He walks past her. And then he has, like, okay, so is the kid with, there's a kid in black and a kid in white. So there's the person under the stairs that Light walks over. Is that the kid that's in the black at the end? Because here's the thing. If that L is dead line, if that transmission was given back in 2006, when he first died, then those 2 kids were finding out about it then. Is this 6 years later? Because if they were like, 10 or 11 at the time in 2006, if they meet up with Light again now in 2012, that's 6 years later. They would have been like 17 or 18. This kid in the OP with the blonde hair looks like he could be 17 or 18. Could that be one of them? And he's in black, so that could kind of be like the kid in black. And then the one with the bleach blonde hair, is that the one in white here? Oh, I don't know. I don't know. But, and then we see Light with the conductor thing. Okay. And there's 2 roses at the end. Color me intrigued. Now that I realize how much of a time skip we've had like a 6-year time skip. Now that we know that, I'm super curious. I'm really curious. But I'm like, Light, have you been blue balling Misa for 6 years? Or has he actually had sex with her? I don't know. But he clearly doesn't care about her, so that's almost worse. I don't know. Or Misa, here's the thing. We talked about this in way back when we were talking about Misa being in a relationship and why she liked Light. And one of the reasons we were saying in the comments was that Misa, she's been sexually assaulted and had all these things happen to her. So the concept of having a loving relationship with a guy that doesn't necessarily want her because of her body or doesn't sexually want her is something that maybe she's okay with and happy with. She just gets to be with him, right? So maybe even if Misa and Light haven't, consummated their relationship after all this time, maybe Misa's totally fine with that. And Light clearly doesn't want to have sex with her, so, I'm really excited now. During this episode, I was kind of sad. I'm not gonna lie. I was really somber and sad during this episode and was like, it's a recap. And in the last few minutes, I was like, what is this? But now that we know about the time skip and now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, was Watari raising a little league of crime-fighting detective kids? Was Watari like Mrs. Peregrine and her home for misfit children? And she was and Watari was getting all these orphans together that had supernatural, super intelligence and stuff together? Is that what he was doing? So are these 2 kids gonna be as terrifying as Elle in terms of being intelligent? I don't know. I don't know. Like, this episode was called Renewal, and the end of the puzzle was Elle dying, so I'm horribly, horribly sad that Elle is potentially dead and out of the story now. I don't like that at all. And I don't like that Light's become the second Elle, and that Light's got his way and he's spent the last 6 years crafting his new world as a god. I'm not happy about that, but I'm curious to see in the next episode. One, I'm curious to see a lot of things next episode. One, how has the world changed since Kira has been in charge? How has the world really changed? Has it really changed? Has crime gone down? Are there just kind people in the world like Light said there would be? You know, and I know Light said at the beginning, he's like, you know, maybe I won't be able to see the end of it in my lifetime, but I'm going to start it there, which is, to play devil's advocate, it's admirable for Light to admit that he won't accomplish everything in his lifetime, but I'm very curious to know, like, what all has changed. Is the world different since Kira has become the new religion? Is the world really different? What is Light's mental state the last 6 years since he hasn't had Elle? How is Misa in all of this? What's Ryuk up to? Has he been getting apples? I hope he's been getting enough apples. And then, what is the deal with these two children? What the fudge? And Roger. So, I'm gonna wait a little bit till I get some more comments, but oh man, I'm devastated about Elle. Horrifically devastated, but now I'm super curious. So, we'll see, right? We'll see. It'll be great. So in the meantime, I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and yeah, I'll be back. I talked a lot more about this episode than I thought I would, considering half of it was a recap, but I'll be back very soon with episode 27. This was the turn, right? We're still in the turn, right? We're not reaching the climax or conclusion of the series yet. We got 10 more episodes. I wonder what could happen in 10 episodes. But we'll find out next week when I'll be back with more Death Note. Bye.